Yep, it's Bronze and Modern Gods. I'm John.
I'm Richard.
Hey, everybody. We've got another show. That's that.
Thank you, John, for that succinct introduction.
Underselling it, right? You know what we do here. We've got underrated books of the week. We've got the 25-year rule. We've got our main topic today, which is it time to sell your collection? How do you know? What do you do? We're here with our experiences and our advice. And first, I want to remind everybody that we will be streaming live this coming weekend at California Comic Con on Sunday, February 5th, from the Short Boxed booth. Now, if you've never been to California Comic Con, Richard, tell them about it.
Oh, it's awesome. It's a convention for comic book nerds. There are no Funkos, there are no anime things. It's just comic books and comic book paraphernalia. It's a great show.
It will be at the Westin at South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa, California. So you kind of have a twofer. If you've got a significant other that is not into comic books, drop him or her off at South Coast Plaza. There's a Louis Vuitton. There's a Gucci. You know, if you're going to spend $4,000 on a Peanuts #1. Let them spend $5,000 on a bracelet.
30.
Yeah, or a single earring. But no, we're going to be at California Comic Con. If you want more information, go to calcomiccon.com. Simple, calcomiccon.com. We're going to see all you guys there. Please come up, say hi. We're going to be at the Short Box booth, broadcasting live and walking around buying every copy of Rawhide Kid #23.
Can't wait.
That's just me. All right, let's move on to our hot book of the week. Richard, this is all...
You're forgetting a very, very important event that happened this week.
What?
We hit 5,000 subscribers.
Oh, yeah. Whatever. Hey, that's right. We hit 5,000. We hit 5K. So if you have not subscribed yet, too late. You missed out.
No, there's always 10K. Everybody, please subscribe.
Oh, okay. Do that. Yes, we want to get to 10K. Seriously, though, we do appreciate each and every one of you. That is incredibly humbling and inspiring all at once. Could you imagine when we started this in April of 2020, Richard, that we would have 5,000 people who gave a crap what we had to spew?
Not at all. I could barely get my wife to be interested in what I'm talking about. So to have 5,000 other people is amazing.
Take her to the Gucci at South Coast Plaza while you go to California Comic Con. I'm telling you, works every time. Thank you all. If you have not subscribed yet, we would love to have you on board. Please hit that subscribe button, hit like. It all helps the algorithm. Each and every one of you, we appreciate it. And now it's time for your hot book of the week, Richard. What is it?
It's my hot book.
It is all you.
This week, it's Sins of Sinister #1, the Art Germ 1 in 100 Virgin variant. That's a mouthful.
I don't think it's anything virginal about this cover whatsoever.
This follows along with Art Germ's love for Emma Frost. For those who are listening to this, it's a picture of Emma Frost leaning back on like a white throne, and she has a provocative pose. And frankly, it reminds me of other covers that Art Germ has done with Emma Frost. He likes Emma Frost as a character, and I don't blame him. She's elegant and sophisticated and gorgeous, so it's a great combination. There's a lot of FOMO around this cover. I don't know if Sins of Sinister is a significant book in its own right in terms of a long-term value, but there's a lot of FOMO going around this book. We saw sales of around $200 for raws of this book on eBay. Staying power, again, I'm not really sure that this is going to be a book that is important for its comic book contribution, but if you're a completionist for Art Germ, or you just like Art Germ's artwork, I have a feeling this is just like other books that Art Germ has done for Emma, is going to maintain a certain level of value. Just an overpay. And also, there is a trade dress version of this book. Please, if you buy, to make sure that it is not the trade dress version, which only sells for $5 or $6. The Virgin variant is the one that is the 1 in 100 and the one that has this value.
I'm interested in the fact that Mr. Sinister is still around, because I just, it's such a throwback to classics. Who calls themselves Doctor Doom? I'm Doctor of Doom. And, he sits there and he goes, you know what? I'm going to call myself Mr. Sinister. It's right on the label. You know what you're getting when you deal with me. I'm Mr. Sinister.
He's one of my favorite villains. He's got attitude and to spare.
I just love the fact that he had the balls to call himself Mr. Sinister, like, Dr. Evil. Yeah, I love that throwback name. Are they still calling him Mr. Sinister or is he just sinister now?
I have not read this book, so I don't
Who
know.
has? Who has? Hey, you guys, let us know in the comments. Is he still the proper Mr. Sinister or is he just the informal Sinister? Just call me Sins. If you want. Hey, enough of that. Time for our main topic, which is a timely one, Richard. In these inflationary times we live in, when is it time to sell your collection? When do you know? How will you know? What will you do? Will you do it? All these questions are coming up as I look through Instagram, as I doom scroll through Instagram, and I see people who I've been following for years getting out, just jumping ship and saying, I'm done. I don't know if it's just happens to be my feed or if it's widespread. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I do see people, and I don't want to say panicking, but they feel a soft market and they don't feel like outweighing waiting that soft market, and so they're dumping books because they need capital, they need liquidity, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a hobby and it's your collection and you do what you want with it. But you may want to think more long term if you have a significant amount of books or highly sought after books about how you sell them.
The good news for you guys out there is you got your two uncles here who have been through this a few times. We've long time listeners of this podcast have heard me talk about my two purges. My first purge around 1996, 1995, when I sold literally my entire collection, everything, even my Captain Americas, to pay for a 1994 purple Ford Ranger. Yeah.
Which you still have, right?
No, I don't have that Ford Ranger. Are you kidding? I drove it into the ground though until I got a 2001 PT Cruiser, but that's a whole nother story. Yes, you can all get in the comments about the PT Cruiser. Go on. The other time I purged is when I went through a breakup after a long-term relationship, and I had to move out and find a place and rent it in Southern California. And I sold pretty much everything then. And I had built up a decent collection then. I had like almost a full run of Venus from the
Yeah.
50s, all my Atlas era Captain Americas, and a bunch of Golden Age caps. So I'm here to tell you, if you're not feeling it anymore and you have financial needs, you got to do it. I mean, it's tough, but you can always recollect. You can always build it back up again. Um, I think if you're not feeling it, you kind of know when it's time. Are you trying to fund a grail? That's another great reason to sell books. You want to sell all that stuff that doesn't mean much to you anymore. Like you stocked up on the God of Hammer's first appearance in Thor. What? And you want to buy Thor 126 instead, the first issue of the ongoing series, yeah, that's a good reason to sell. The Susie Orman wig is coming on here. Do you have credit card debt? Are you having trouble paying your bills every month in full? Yeah, then it's time to start purging. Sorry, I'm going to be Susie and tell you if your credit card debt, here is how you can really just wake yourself up. Go to your credit card statement. I know it's awful and you don't want to do it. You don't want to face it. Go to your credit card statement and look at the monthly interest you're paying.
Oh yeah,
If
yeah.
you're paying over $100 in monthly interest, pay that card off by any means necessary. Because think about it. If you're paying $400 a month in interest, that's literally $300 or $400 a month you could have been buying comic books with, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And if you just, I don't want to put my Susie Orman hat on, but if you only pay the minimum on those credit cards, it's going to take you years to pay those off. So you want to, like John says, I bulk up on it and try to pay it off as quickly as possible.
Now, how do you sell your books? There's a few ways. I will tell you, probably the quickest and most efficient way to do it is also, in my opinion, the worst way to do it. And that's by going to your LCS with a bunch of long boxes and saying, hey, I'm getting rid of my collection. Do you want to buy these? Because you will make pennies on the dollar, which is not a slam on local comic book stores. They have to make money. They're not going to give you fair market value for your books. They have to give you a minimum, or not minimum, but probably at the very most 50% of
Mhm.
fair market value, because they have to use their time and resources to grade and price those books and sit on them for a while until they sell. So you are not going to get the maximum value for your books if you sell them through an LCS. You might want to try, if they're significant books, you might want to try the Heritage Auction or Comic Connect route. Just take a stack with you to a convention where they are. They accept stuff there, or they'll work with you there. I've done that before when I bought a whole bunch of pre-hero Marvel monster titles that were part of the Nicolas Cage collection
Mm.
at an auction, and I got them slabbed, and I think I sold them through Comic Connect. Or Comic Link, one of the two. I met them at the San Diego Comic Con, dropped them off, and a few months later I got a nice meaty check. But the LCS is not the route to take if you want to maximize it. Now, having said that, if it's a bunch of dreck and you got a buyer that's going to give you something for it and you're desperate, yeah, of course do that. Um, don't sell out of fear, though. If you're selling not because you need the money, but because you think the market is really depressed, and this is the only time you're going to be making money, that is wrong. Let me tell you, as someone who's done it twice and regretted it, I will tell you this. There are so many books that I've bought and I've stuck in a box and they've sat there in my closet for 10 or 20 years, and then I break them out and now they're hot and they go for hundreds and thousands of dollars, and it's like I just uncovered buried treasure. If you play a long game, I had a box full of Spawn #1s. I had a few Ultimate Fallout 4s from back in the day, stuff like that. Have you ever discovered buried treasure in your collection, Richard, that you forgot about?
Yeah, well, that's how I got back into the hobby. I had heard peripherally about. I think maybe I was talking to you about the values of books. And so I went to my mother's attic where I have hidden my books back in 1990 something, up in the attic, and I pulled them down, and there are these yellowed long boxes, and was going through it and said, I'm pulling out books, and this is $200, and this is $400, and it was just amazing how these books had a value that I never would have associated with books like that. And so yeah, I mean that was probably the biggest haul, is me looking at my old collection and seeing what things in there, because I had books from 1978 all the way through the early 90s, and yeah, it was a significant amount of money. Now you're talking about selling books. Now I look at books in three different categories. I look at books, the inner circle books, the books that I'm going to keep forever. These are books, my dad gave it to me, or it has some other emotional significance to you that you don't want to part with that particular book. I don't have any of those.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but I could see somebody whose dad passed down a collection, and that book, that I don't know, Daredevil, 235 or whatever, is important to you because your dad gave it to you. I do have category two books, which are books that are very important to me. Ultimate Fallout 4s, my Fantastic Four #5, and things like that. Those books are important to me, and I will resist the urge to sell those books because either A, they're going to be difficult to replace, or B, I could never afford them for the value that they are now. So yeah, I keep those books close to home. That doesn't mean if the situation came about, I wouldn't immediately have it available for sale.
Mhm.
They're just books, they just happen to be the books in my collection. I can replace them. And then there's the outer ring of books, and those are the books that that's the majority of my collection. Books that I buy because I like them. I think they're cool. Like I bought a Tarot #1 for David Nakayama. I thought it was a gorgeous cover, beautiful book. It's in my collection because I like it. But if all of a sudden it has a value, or I need the money, I'll turn around and sell it because it can be replaced. I can always replace books like that. And I think it's important to realize these are just things. And if you have a need for that money, or if you decide that you no longer want to collect, it's perfectly a legitimate choice to sell those.
I mean, if you have to put a down payment on some eggs, it's time to sell. This is the economic reality we're living in. But if you're okay and you're doing all right and you've got a steady job and insurance and the credit card debt is down, then hold on to stuff because you just never know what's going to pop. I mean, the reason why the first appearance of Ms. Marvel in Marvel Point One is so expensive is because nobody ever thought that there
Right.
was going to be a Ms. Marvel TV series, for God's sake. And here we are 10 years later.
And watch out for seller's remorse, because I have sold books that didn't need to sell, but I sold them because they were at a good price. And I now look back and I'm like, wow, I really wish I had kept that book because I cannot replace it for what I sold it for. Um,
Captain America Weird Tales number 74.
Now I had a hands Ultimate Fallout 4 Djevik variant 9.8 that I got raw and had slabbed, and it was a beautiful book, and I sold it for what I thought was a good amount of money. Um, it's but for 40 some odd thousand. So buyer's remorse or seller's remorse is important. But again, if you look at your books like I do, where they're just things, they can be replaced. All of them can be replaced. If it's it makes it much easier to let them go.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Everything physical, for the most part, can be replaced. I mean, I'm in a much better place than I am now financially and just in life than I was when I had all those comic books.
Mhm.
And I can honestly say, looking back, that was a stepping stone to get me out to California, to get me in the industry that I'm in. If I had not done that, I wouldn't be here now. So there's buyer's remorse, but then there's, healthy buyer's remorse, which is, hey, that happened. It's over. We're gonna move on and recollect and find another Captain America Weird Tale
Yeah,
74 someday.
yeah. There are other yeah. Um, there is no book out there except for that inner circle book that your dad gave you that with some diligence you can replace. So don't feel about bad about.
And being debt free is a peace of mind that is priceless.
Yeah. Yeah, I just went through that where was saving money for an AF-15, and I decided that that money that I was putting aside to that better served by paying off my debt, and I don't regret it. I look at the AF-15s every now and then and go, yeah, I wish I had that, but at the same time, it's a lift weight off your shoulder to not have to carry around a debt.
Well, this coming Sunday at California Comic Con in Costa Mesa, use your credit card to buy a Amazing Fantasy 15.
Oh man, I don't even know what I'm going to buy when we get there. I'm in a I'm also in a very good position with my collection because the things that I want, I have. There are some books that are cool, I think, but I've got the core books that I want. Um, so I'd be very interested to see what tempts me at the California Comic Con.
I'm kind of the same. There are no big ticket items that I want slash need. It's more going to be like, I don't know, am I going to find Peanuts number 12, in a 9.0? That's the kind of stuff that I don't, I never know. And
Yeah.
I'm bad at conventions. I'm bad, you guys. I never go in with a list or anything. I just kind of walk around and, oh, there's a Marvel Boy number 2 in 5.0. How much is that? Which is really bad. I shouldn't do that. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always 11 Rockets number one, 9.8. If that shows up, I will be buying it.
Hey, we'll be broadcasting live at the Shortbox booth, so bring it by. You watch Richard and I fight over it. Oh, but I look back in 1998. I was comic book free. I didn't have a collection. I didn't have boxes of Captain Americas that I had since I was 5 years old. I was easy to move when I moved from place to place because I didn't have to lug those boxes around anymore. But I was just starting to buy comic books again. And that is a really clever segue into the 25-year rule. I'll let you guys judge if that was clever or not. I shouldn't say it was clever. Richard, did you know that the X-Files comic book ended in 1998 with X-Files number 41. This is
No,
the last issue.
I did not. I never read this series when it was out.
It is probably the most 90s book ever. You have the X-Files, Fox TV series about conspiracy theories and aliens and things of that nature, published by Topps Comics, a baseball card trading company that decided to dip their toe into the comic book world. This sells for about $20 this last issue on eBay. There are also a lot of complete sets on eBay as well. So if you don't have everything and you want to buy a complete set, I would do that instead of just paying $20 for this last issue, because you get a complete set of 1 through 41 and the annuals for about $150. There's also a photo variant of this cover. What's interesting is this is one of the last comic books published by Topps Comics, who went under in 1998. There was an issue of Xena Warrior Princess that came out a month after this. That's the last Topps comic book. And then poof, that was it for Topps.
Yeah.
Another victim claimed by the bottoming out of the comic book market.
Yeah, bad timing on their part. I wonder if we'll ever see them dip their toe in again.
I don't know, but X-Files, it was interesting that they had just had that first movie come out in 1998. So it was a good time to be in that licensed comic book business. But man, Topps, I'm sure it was a lot of overhead. Who knows why they went under, but there is your 25-year rule for this week. Moving on to our underrated comic books of the week, Richard. Underrated? Can I define this for you?
I decided to go with undervalued.
Okay.
My pick this week is X-Men number 266, the first cover appearance of Gambit. You know, there's an argument whether his first appearance was in X-Men Annual number 14 or if it was this. Well, it's not really an argument. He was in X-Men number 14, Annual 14. But
He's featured, he's named, he's drawn by Art Adams. Storm says, "Listen, Gambit." I mean,
yeah,
it came out 3 weeks before X-Men 266. Scheduling snafu.
yeah, all I got to say is Hulk 180.
Yeah.
You know, so people decide. It's what the market decides is the key book.
The eternal debate.
Yeah. So this is definitely his first cover appearance. Watch out! There's a facsimile of this book that came out last year before, someplace around there. There's a newsstand. There's a newsstand with a Mark Jewelers insert, and there's a direct of this book. I think it's undervalued. The direct 9.8 right now is going for under $800. This is a major character from the X-Men mythos. I mean, this is other than the original X-Men, the X-Men that are important to fans include Gambit. And here's a secret: I'm not a big fan of Gambit, but I know other people are. And at $800, and this book is dropping a little bit, so now is a good time to kind of dip in. As X-Men become more front row, as we'll see Wolverine in the upcoming Deadpool movie. We are definitely getting X-Men. There's an X-Men animated series coming. There is almost definitely an X-Men MCU movie coming here in the future. Buy the dip, and I think the dip is now. I think $800 for this book is a very good price. It's not cheap, and I will never call it cheap, but when it comes to an X-Men major character's first appearance, I think this is a good buy.
Do you happen to know? I'm putting you on the spot here. It's okay if you don't. Do you happen to know what a 9.6 goes for?
I do not.
Because, someone in the comments last week, shout out to whoever it was, I'm sorry, left a really good comment like, "Hey, what's wrong with a 9.6?"
Yeah. No, there's nothing there. We need to do a show on that because there is a market preference for 9.8s. 9.8s aren't the perfect book. A
No.
10.0 is a perfect book, right? So the market has decided that 9.8 is the best quality that you can acquire at a reasonable price. That doesn't mean other books of other grades aren't as important. It just means the market has decided arbitrarily that 9.8s are, the top of the pyramid. 9.6 are just as well. I buy a lot of 9.6s because I don't want to pay the 9.8 price, but I want the book in my collection. It's a good way of getting a high grade book without paying that 9.8 price.
And if you see it physically in person, you can take a look at the book inside the slab and really see if there a finger bend that could be pressed out,
Mhm.
or is it truly a 9.6 because there are like multiple color breaking ticks on that spine or a blunted corner? Because then you can really make a decision. Hey, I might be able to CPR this book, crack, press, and resubmit and get a 9.8. There's also the problem right now with everyone saying moderns are being really aggressively graded right now, and 9.8s are not a sure thing like they used to be for some of these books. So maybe that'll put the shine back on a 9.6.
Yeah, 9.6s are interesting books because, like you say, there could be flaws in the book. I have some books that are 9.8s that have a significant issue with them that they'll always be a 9.8. And as a matter of fact, I probably will never get them reslabbed because I don't want them to make it a 9.4. But there are, the grading process is very subjective. So the person who's grading the book is a human being. I mean, there's no laser sight that determines that this is the uh, right condition for a 9.8. A human being does that, and that human being has variance in what he determines something is. So on Monday, he may see this book as a 9.6, and on Tuesday, because he had his coffee and all the other things, he may see it a 9.8. If that book is borderline like that, there is a chance that you could flip that 9.6 into a 9.8 by, like John says, CPR it and send it back in. It could be worth the chance. I mean, I have a 9.6 here on the wall that if it was a 9.8 would be a really, really expensive book. It might be worth it to me to press it and spend the $40 and get it graded. So
Yeah. Let's talk about Gambit, how much we hate him, because that's always fun. Well, first of all, is Gambit like the last major new, and I'm using new in quotes, X-Men
Mhm.
character that's introduced that has lasted?
Yeah, I mean, was Jubilee before or after him?
Jubilee was before X-Men 245.
Okay.
And then you had people like Marrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
that I don't even know if they're around anymore. I think Gambit might be the last
Yeah.
legacy X-Men character to hang around, right?
Right. Yeah, and his relationship with Rogue, I think, is an important part of him having that longevity. But people love him. Me personally, that Cajun accent, that
Cajun Man, Adam Sandler from I got a primary mutation.
he that, and you add on Rogue Southern drawl. And I don't have any problem with those accents. It's just the way they're written is
Claremontisms.
yeah, it's he's not one of my favorite characters. But like I said, I can understand his importance and in X-Men mythos.
He's one of those Claremont characters that is defined by an accent.
Mhm.
What other personality traits does he have? He's a traitor, okay, um, and one of those just really ill-defined power sets. What's
Mhm.
Gambit's power?
Kinetically charging things and throwing them.
Is
That's
that
all.
it? Okay, wasn't there like a luck thing happening for a while too, or am I misremembering
Is
that?
there a luck thing? I thought that was what's his name?
Black Cat?
No, what's his name? The long shot. I thought he
Long
was luck.
shot. Okay, maybe I'm confusing my projectile throwing mutants. Just bad mullets from the 80s. But yeah, Gambit fans in the comments, tell us why, please. We're curious. We want to know.
Yeah, it's a very good question because but then again, I started back when the new team that came around with Giant Size X-Men #1. That was the team for me, and
Yeah.
anybody after that is just an also ran. So if
Oh, I just thought of someone else that came after
who
Bishop.
and yeah, I'm not a
He,
big Bishop fan either, or
but he's
Cable.
around.
He's still,
Cable.
yeah,
Cable's X Force, though, not X Men.
that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Am I forgetting anybody after Bishop? Everyone, jump in, please. We're old. Things are getting foggy.
Yeah, the X Men, the is in defining X Men is very porous because he has so many different teams, and sometimes they're a villain like Emma Frost, and sometimes on the X Men like Emma Frost, and sometimes they're a villain again like Magneto, and sometimes it's difficult.
Magneto should never be a hero. Sorry.
I agree with you there. I agree with you there. Doom is a different story, but Magneto, he is not a hero. He he has his own sense of law and order to what he does, but it's counter what the majority, he's all about mutants and mutants as a superior creature above humans, and he will do whatever is necessary to further the you know the mutants' rights and mutants' ability to be superior.
But there are just continuity actions that a character can take that you can't just come back from. Killing an entire submarine full of Russian naval officers. You can't come in X-Men 150, by the way. You can't come back from that. I know they tried to gloss over it, but Charles Xavier, that I know, would never go, oh yeah, let them handle the New Mutants. They're under 18. They're malleable.
Oh yeah, yeah. The
That was
X-Men is an interesting team, and it's one of the reasons why I think it's has such a great longevity is because it's not pigeonholed into one
yeah.
particular group of characters in one particular situation. It changes and morphs over time. We got Krakoa now, where everything's happening, and I think that's fascinating, and that's why X-Men will always be my favorite superhero team.
I thought of two more that have come since Gambit that may still be around. It may still be significant. Phantom X from the
Mm-mm.
Grant Morrison run and Zorn.
Oh, what's her
No?
name? Starts with a P.
Psylocke?
Psylocke, thank you. Yeah.
But Psylocke was before Gambit. Psylocke's in the 240s.
Okay.
Yeah, and New Mutants Annual #2, and also Captain Britain #8 with the first appearance of Betsy Braddock. You
Okay.
want to go into
Never ever get into a mental knife fight with John's memory.
it?
Okay.
Sorry.
He'll pull all these facts out, and I never fact check him because I just assume he's right.
John, you big old know-it-all. Just act confident. No one will ever question you. Just rattle random issues off. Oh, that was X-Men 245, first Jubilee, drawn by Rob Liefeld, by the way. My underrated book of the week is really hitting a target audience. Let me put it that way. A very specific target audience. It is Death's Head #8 from the first Death's Head series, Marvel UK. This is, believe it or not, the first appearance of Doctor Who in Marvel Universe continuity.
Wow.
Now, Marvel had published a couple Doctor Who comics before this, Marvel Premiere, Doctor Who Weekly in the UK, of course, which was reprinted in the direct sales only Doctor Who comic book in the US. But Death's Head was in the Marvel Universe, and in issue #8, he's hired to steal the TARDIS, which is Doctor Who. I'm a big Whovian. This book
Mhm.
speaks to me. I do not have it. I started doing some research on it today. There's no GPA data on this
Oh,
book.
wow.
There is one single solitary slab on the CGC census, and that is a 9.6. But this book does sell anywhere from $7 to $45 on eBay. This is appealing for us Whovians out there. And I also believe this is one you can find for sure in bargain bins at comic book stores and conventions all across this great nation. Because who's collecting Death's Head?
So Doctor Who is in the Marvel continuity. That's really
I'm
cool.
sure at the time when Marvel had the license, they don't have the license anymore. Titan does. So this will never be reprinted, I'm sure.
It won't be reprinted until Kevin Feige decides he wants to buy out
The
Doctor Who.
BBC, he's going to buy the BBC.
Why not? He's got
Disney is
Disney-
powerful.
yeah, he's got Disney's pockets, behind him. And, it's a significant amount of cash.
Do any of you guys have Death's Head #8? You want to sell a homeboy? We're going to be at California Comic Con this Sunday, February 5th.
Yes, bring bring your Love and Rockets number one 9.8s for us to look at.
And your Death Head's #8 for Peter. Richard, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Remind everybody where we're going to be Sunday. We haven't mentioned it.
We're going to be at California Comic Con. It's going to be a great time. Anybody in Southern California area who's got the free time on Sunday, stop on by. We'd be happy to say hi and just to share a comic book moment.
Or if you're Mr. Moneybags from Monopoly like Richard over here, you can fly out from Ohio to Southern California.
I had miles.
You had what?
Miles and miles.
Of Morales? Airline miles. Okay, sorry. I hear you mention miles, and I think I know what you're talking about. Hey, everybody, thanks. Hit like, hit subscribe. Thanks again for helping us get over 5K
Thank you.
subscribers. I still can't wrap my head around it, but thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. And everybody, stay safe.